Hello everyone, this is Rabbi Drang, and I'm going to be teaching you right now the last section of Perek Vuv. The story continues with pasuk Lamed Gimel, and we're going to read from pasuk Lamed Gimel till the end of the Perek. So here we go. V'chol Midyan v'Amalek u'vnei Kedem Nesfu yachdav vayavru vayachanu be'emek Yisrael. The Nebi tells us that the nations Amalek now joins with Midyan as well as Bnei Kedem. Three nations gather together and they are camping in the valley of Yisrael. V'ruach Hashem labsha et Gidon. Beautiful description here about what happened next. Gidon feels as though the spirit of Hashem is surrounding him, much like a person wearing clothing. The clothing is on him. He's wearing it. Only in this case, it was the spirit of Hashem that was surrounding Gidon. Vayitka bashofar. Gidon blows the shofar. Vayizaek Aviezer acharav. He gathers his family. The Aviezerites are the family of Gidon. He gathers them and they follow behind him. So we're setting the stage for a war between the people of Midyan, Amalek, and Bnei Kedem, and they're going to be going against the people of Gidon. Now, Gidon and his family is much too small to fight. So Gidon now sends malachim, which either means angels, but it also means messengers. Here it means messengers. He sends messengers b'chol Menashe to the tribe of Menashe. Vayisai gamu acharab. They follow after Gidon. U'malachim shalach be'asher. He sends messengers to Asher. U'b'zulun. And to the tribe of Zulun. U'v'naftali. Vayalu ala kratam. And they go to greet Gidon. So now Gidon has a few tribes together with him and his family to fight in the war. Now, one tribe that you may notice is not here, which may have belonged here, was Shevet Ephraim, because we have Menashe, and perhaps Ephraim should have been there too. This is something that will come up in the end of the story. For now, the stage is set. We have four tribes and Gidon and his family, and they are going to fight against Midyan, Amalek, and Bnei Kedem. But now Gidon stops and he wants to speak to Hashem. And he says to Hashem, Vayomer Gidon el ha'Elohim, im yeshcha moshia biyadi et Yisrael kasher dibarta. Hine anochi matzik et gizat hatzemer bagoren, so Gidon says to Hashem, if I am going to win this war, show me a sign that I'm going to win this war. So behold, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some wool, I'm going to put it on the ground. And in the morning, if the wool is wet from dew, and the ground underneath the wool is dry, then I know I'm going to win the war. Now this is a very interesting sign. The ground is to be dry, and the wool on the ground is going to be soaking. It needs to be soaking with dew. Why did Gidon choose such a sign? We'll discuss that in a minute. Vayehi chen, and it was so. Vayashke mimacharat. The next morning he woke up, Vayazeret agizah, and he wrung out the wool, Vayimet tal min agizah. And there was dew in the wool that came out, Melo hasefel mayim. It was completely filled up a bowl of water. There's a picture of Gideon squeezing out the wool and filling up a bowl. Vayomer Gideon el Elohim. Then Gideon says to Hashem, Al yicharab chabi, do not be angry with me. Ve'adabra achapam. I'm going to speak only this time. Anase rakapam ba'agiza. This time, only in the wool. Yina chorev. Let the wool be dry. Agiza levada. Ve'al kol haaretz yetal. And under the wool, the land should be completely wet. And it was dry to the wool, and the rest of the land was filled with tal. So we can look here, we see that the first sign, the wool was wet and the land was dry, and the second sign, the wool was dry and the land was wet. So we explained in class two things. First of all, why did Gideon have to have two signs? Why wasn't one sign enough? So there are two answers to this. One answer is that the first sign actually didn't work. Although the wool was dry, the wool was wet rather, the ground under the wool was not dry. And the reason the land under the wool wasn't dry is because Hashem made a promise to Bnei Yisrael that the land will always have dew. And therefore Gideon needed a second sign. There's another explanation given, that is, Gideon asked for two signs because there is symbolism behind the signs. The wool is meant to be Gideon. Just like wool protects a person from the cold, Gideon is the leader, he protects the Jewish people. Gideon wanted to know, is he worthy of saving the Jewish people? If the Jews are not worthy, am I worthy? Show me that I'm worthy by having the wool wet and the ground dry. And the next day, the wool was wet and the ground was dry. But then Gideon wanted to know, what about the Jews? Are they worthy? Maybe if I wasn't their leader, would they still be worthy of being saved? And in order to find the answer to that question, Gideon asked if the ground could be wet and the wool can be dry. Being that the land is the Jews and the wool is Gideon, Hashem's answer is yes, the Jews are worthy, even were it not for Gideon. So that is the pasukim that we learned today. And I want to show you the notes. At this point, you can go ahead and pause the video and look at the notes and copy them down. I will read them for you. It is as follows. In Perek Vuv, pasukim lamed gimel to mem, the enemies Midian and Amalek camp at Emek Yisrael. That was point number one. The Spirit of Hashem covered Gideon, blew the shofar, that is to say that Gideon blew the shofar. He gathers his family, Menashe, Zulun, Naphtali, and Asher, and now the stage is set for a war. Gideon asks Hashem for a sign to know if he'd win. Sign number one, land dry, wool wet. Sign number two, wool dry, and the land is wet. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great evening. By the way, there is homework that is due on Friday, page 12, questions 1 to 11. Thank you so much.